The movie opens in 1949 with a volcanic eruption near La Palma, causing earthquakes and creating a fault zone that shifts the land toward the ocean. Locals fear another disaster. In the present day, a group of tourists enjoys a boat ride, but tragedy strikes when a woman goes missing while swimming. Bubbles appear around the boat and her lifeless body surfaces, followed by scalding water that kills everyone aboard. A Norwegian family arrives for their Christmas vacation, staying at the same hotel they visited for 7 years. Sarah finds an earring belonging to the deceased tourist. Meanwhile, scientists at the La Palma Geology Institute notice strange volcanic activity. Marie and Hoyer investigate a malfunctioning transmitter on the mountain and discover signs of a potential eruption, including running water inside a cave and high levels of dangerous gases. Despite their warnings, their supervisor, Alvaro, dismisses the threat due to a false alarm 3 years prior. The family's vacation takes a turn when Sarah flirts with Charlie and tensions rise between Frederick and Jennifer. Meanwhile, Marie learns about the boat accident and begins to worry about a tsunami. At the Institute, Marie and Hoyer's findings intensify, revealing a growing crack that could signal disaster. Despite their concerns, Alvaro refuses to issue a public warning. On the mountain, a sudden eruption forces Marie and Hoyer to flee, and a group of campers is tragically caught in the gas. After a brief hospital stay, Marie pushes for action, while her brother Eric, on a diving trip, is unaware of the looming danger. The family's tensions grow as Frederick and Jennifer argue, and Sarah's interaction with Charlie complicates matters. Marie convinces the mayor to meet with the government, but the eruption continues and ash clouds cause chaos. Sarah's plane crashes after flying into the ash, and the couple desperately searches for her at the hospital. Amid growing tremors, the government finally starts preparations. Marie receives a call that Sarah is missing, but soon Sarah returns safe, and a moment of reconciliation follows. However, the island remains dangerous. Eric goes missing, leading to a dramatic scene in a bar where Marie is arrested by mistake. The next morning, Eric apologizes, and together, they decide to leave the island. Meanwhile, Jens is urgently called back to the office. The team watches a simulation of a natural disaster that could potentially destroy the Canary Islands in just hours or days. This information is still classified, so they begin planning the evacuation of any Norwegian tourists on the island in secret. At the hotel, Sarah wakes up next to Charlie, and they share a tender kiss before Sarah reluctantly returns to her room. Overcome with emotion, Sarah finally confesses to her mother that she's attracted to girls. Jennifer is incredibly supportive, offering her comfort and love. The family spends a joyful time together in the pool, but their happiness is shattered when Jens calls, informing Jennifer about the impending tsunami. He explains that La Palma isn't a priority for evacuation, and most of the ferries have been rerouted to other islands. Jens tells them that only a small ferry remains, leaving in 20 minutes, and they must hurry. The family scrambles to pack only the essentials, but Sarah, frantic, tries to warn Charlie. Unfortunately, she doesn't find her and runs out of time. When they get outside, they struggle to find a taxi. In desperation, Frederick steals a van, driving recklessly through the streets to the harbor. As they arrive, the van's owners follow them, confronting Frederick. After a brief scuffle, Frederick offers the men money to leave him alone, and he rushes to reunite with his family, only to find that the ferry has already departed. Sarah calls Charlie, urging her to leave the island, but before she can explain, the signal is lost. At the Institute, Alvaro's team notices a loss of signal from the transmitters, and Alvaro immediately contacts the government, warning them of the tsunami expected in a matter of hours. Evacuation sirens blare across the island as panic spreads. The hospital faces challenges moving the survivors from the recent plane crash, and Hoyer, who has just awoken from his coma, is in disbelief at the chaos unfolding around him. Everyone is desperate to get on the last boats. Frederick secures a spot on one thanks to a hotel friend, but just before the boat departs, he notices a desperate mother with a baby and gives up his spot to help them. He's left stranded on the island. At the Institute, Hoyer surprises Alvaro by refusing to leave. The duo decides to spend what could be their last day together by taking one final field trip. News outlets worldwide cover the unfolding disaster, showing footage of lava flowing, the growing tsunami, and the evacuation efforts. Sarah calls Jens, telling him what happened, but he's reprimanded by his boss for leaking confidential information. Meanwhile, a wave researcher offers to help the office identify safe zones, but the director refuses to take action. Jens secretly calls the researcher back, offering him a desk to continue his work. As the island descends into chaos, Frederick gives up hope. He calls his family to express his love, but the signal cuts out before they can say anything more. At the police station, the officers finally flee in fear. Eric takes the keys and frees Marie, along with another prisoner. As they try to escape, they freeze at the sight of another explosion from the volcano. Frederick overhears them talking about the lack of boats, but Eric reveals that he has a diving boat. The three of them race to the beach, where they find the boat, but an armed prisoner confronts them. Eric offers to let him join them, but the man refuses to cooperate, leading to a violent struggle. During the altercation, the gun goes off and Eric is shot. Marie rushes to his side, but her brother dies in her arms. Frederick tackles the criminal and after a violent fight, drowns him, securing the boat for themselves. They set off, with Frederick keeping others away by brandishing a gun. Back in the office, Jens hears from the wave expert that the only safe place to survive the tsunami is Tenor Bay near La Palma, though the chances of survival there are still 50-50ths. Jens informs his boss of this, but she dismisses it, believing that the odds aren't good enough to justify making a public announcement. Meanwhile, on the mountain, Hoyer and Alvaro don special suits to venture near the volcano and observe the lava flow. At the airport, Jennifer and the kids show their passports, including Frederick's, and receive wristbands for their flight. Just before boarding, Sarah notices Charlie outside and, unable to leave her behind, gives Charlie her wristband. Meanwhile, Frederick and Marie arrive at Tenor Island. As the volcano continues to erupt, the mountain begins to collapse, triggering the tsunami. Hoyer and Alvaro are caught in the eruption, and their deaths mark a tragic end to their journey. At the airport, the plane shakes violently as tremors from the eruption reach it. Panic spreads among the passengers, and Jennifer, worried about Sarah, leaves the plane with Tobias to search for her. The girls, unaware of the chaos, are still boarding. As they watch the waves forming, Marie realizes that the tsunami will also hit Tenor. In Norway, Jens' boss is about to begin a press conference but cancels it after hearing about the landslide. Taking advantage of the situation, Jens reveals the truth about the tsunami and shares the coordinates of the safe spot before security drags him away. Frederick receives the coordinates via text, and he and Marie set off on the boat to reach the safe spot. Meanwhile, the last two planes at the airport are gripped by panic as passengers witness the growing wave. Sarah calls Jennifer to reassure her that she's on the plane, and Jennifer tells her to stay put. As Sarah receives a text with the coordinates, she sends them to her mother. Jennifer struggles to read them, and just as she begins to search for help, the internet service is cut. Fortunately, Tobias, who has a talent for maps, quickly locates the coordinates. He, Jennifer, and a few other passengers leave the airport in a van driven by the last employee on duty. Along the way, they see the tsunami growing, causing Boz to panic, but Jennifer does her best to keep him calm. Back on the boat, Frederick and Marie struggle to navigate through increasingly rough waters. They lose phone signal and can no longer track the map, intensifying their sense of uncertainty and fear. Two massive waves crash behind Frederick and Marie's boat, but by some miracle, they manage to dodge them at the last second. The tsunami soon reaches the airport, causing the ground to crack, and the plane is unable to take off. It's immediately hit by the waves, shattering the windows and flooding the interior. Jennifer's group has no choice but to abandon the van and flee up the mountain to the designated safe spot. Frederick and Marie finally arrive at the safe spot, where they find several survivors hiding, including the group from the airport. Frederick is overjoyed to reunite with his family, but his relief turns to dread when he realizes Sarah is missing. Meanwhile, Sarah regains consciousness inside the flooded plane, shocked to find herself alive. Charlie is still unconscious, so Sarah, with the help of a stewardess, performs CPR until Charlie wakes up. The girls step out of the plane to find the entire airport in ruins. Media outlets around the world cover the catastrophic disaster, reporting not only the devastation on the islands but also the destruction across West Africa and Southern Europe. Entire buildings have collapsed and thousands are confirmed dead. As the American government braces for the impact, helicopters are dispatched to search for survivors. Back in Norway, Jens is fired for his actions and anxiously awaits news about his family. Later in the afternoon, a former coworker visits him with confidential information. Many survivors have been found at the safe spot, including Jennifer and her family. Thanks to Jens' quick thinking, hundreds of lives were saved. The government sets up a relief camp on the island, where survivors from the safe spot are gathered. A helicopter arrives to bring the remaining survivors from the plane, allowing Sarah to finally reunite with her family. Sometime later, Marie goes diving to swim with the turtles. As she connects with the peaceful memory of her late brother, she reflects on his reminder. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.